I call it like a rent a recruiter service because it just like clicks and resonates. And yeah, for like a little bit, like a month or two ago, when we were trying to, my head of talent and I are like, all right, let's get a couple clients. I just did that like every week on like a Wednesday or like every other week, I'd post something about like a client success story, or I posted like our legit, just our one pager, like a image of that plus exactly what we're doing and like the quick pitch, like the value prop as to why you should think about this. And yeah, I got lucky. I was averaging like one person reaching out to me for every time I posted. So like over the course of that month, I got like 4 leads off of that, which was great.
Today, I am thrilled to have Jake Huber with us. Jake has experienced scaling 3 unicorns in his previous life. Today, he is the founder and chief scale officer of Venture Scaler. Jake, tell us about Venture Scaler and what you do there.
Yeah, so venture scaler, like we help ventures scale. The one of the biggest ways we do that, which kind of fell backwards and realized this pain point that a lot of early stage founders are experiencing is with hiring. So we help like seed, series A, like typically like that stage company and founder with hiring by plugging in recruiters. So I have a expert bench of recruiters, folks that worked at companies like Uber, Amazon, Spotify, and we plug them into your company and they act like an internal recruiter. They're like your partner and work with you on the process, but we only charge hourly for the time. Whereas if you go the route of working with a traditional agency, you're going to be paying probably around like 25% of first year salary. And for an early stage founder, for every fourth person you hire, you can't hire your fifth because you just spent their entire annual salary on commissions. So it becomes a very cost-effective model. And it also just, it gives time back to the team. Like, founders, if you're running a hiring process, it becomes its own job. And you usually don't have enough time to go out and do your own sourcing and reach out to like really amazing talent that might be passively looking. So that's the other thing, is like we really help founders find the best talent in a scalable way that flexes up and down with them and really solves an acute pain point at these formative stages.
I love this. I remember the first time when I learned about the model by which, these recruiting agencies work is they just take flat like X% of the first year salary. It blew my mind.
It's expensive, and sometimes they'll even ask for like part, if not all of that payment up front. So it just like really hurts cash flow when you're thinking about like your burn rate and runway and when are we going to need to fundraise next. And a lot of times when you're hiring, it's because you need to. So like you feel the pain, you need the person in that seat, and it becomes like that, like, can I afford this type of a game, which I don't know, just feels like nonsense.
Hmm. Yeah. So if anybody listening is a founder or knows a founder who needs people on his team, please reach out to Jake. All of his
Yes.
information will be in the show notes.
Love that. Yes, of course.
Jake, so let me dig a little more into the service that you're offering at VentureScaler. So so it essentially sounds like a productized service model, right?
Yeah, in a way, definitely.
Yeah. So what is the like? Can you get into the details of the package that you offer for, let's say, a client who comes in and asks you for help in their recruitment process?
Yeah. So basically, how I explain it to founders is you're paying hourly for the time that like, you're working with the recruiter, like the recruiter's working with you. So rather than a commission, it's an hourly rate, but I don't structure it like an hourly engagement. Learn that one the hard way. It's inconsistent. It creates like a lot of issues that they just don't need to be there, and just weird expectations. So what I've structured earlier this year is more of a model that looks like a retainer or like a subscription model that's just like flexible. So what I do is when I'm working with a founder, we're discussing like what are the priority roles, what's their timeline? Like how quickly do they need to place these people? How many like how many heads do they need to hire for? And after we have that conversation, I'll come back with a recommendation to say, okay, you're hiring this many people. This is your timeline. You're trying to hit these targets. Let's do 20 hours a week or 30 hours a week. And I think we should get there in, this time frame. So then we just create that monthly, like a monthly hourly retainer. So they kind of like prepay for the hours that will be worked that month, with the option that month to month, if we need to ramp up, we can add hours or bring in another recruiter. Or if, and this happens with some of our clients, they just have like a really big push. They need to hire. So like one of our recent clients, like their assumptions changed. They had to hire 10 or 20 people like yesterday. So they had a big push and now they need to slow down and get back to normal. So we started really heavy and then ramped it down after 2 months. So it has that flexibility, but the offering is quote unquote productized because I know what we need to deliver. Like the deliverable and the result is usually always the same. So it typically falls within that type of a package.
Interesting. So when you're starting, signing up a client, you are clear with the amount of hours that they're gonna get for this package that they're gonna be prepay for. Is that right?
In this case, yeah, because, end of the day, we are selling like the recruiter, like access to the recruiter in their time. So it's not like a pure play, like productization type of thing. I've done that type of work in the past, and usually I'm attaching that to like results. Like these are the results, and this is the like final deliverable or set of deliverables that you can expect. And then it doesn't matter about how many hours it takes, which is the beauty of having a productized offering, is that you can become more efficient over time, which means that your margins can increase over time. For us in this package, it's fairly straightforward. We're plugging that recruiter in, and the recruiter's getting paid for his or her time, and the startup and the founder are paying for their time. So it's win-win. And I just create that structure that's more of a retainer just to set the right expectations. And it's easier for a founder to wrap their head around and budget and forecast. There's no hidden fees or guessing if it like ebbs and flows. So it just makes everything easy for both sides.
And has it ever happened like a case where a founder or somebody, one of your clients asked you for, why was it taking so long, or, asked you for basically a detail of the hours that you're spending?
Yeah, those questions come up. They came up a lot more when I was charging just straight hourly, where we gave like estimates, but then I would put like a detailed list together of like all hours worked and send over. And it was like, oh, we did like 60 hours this month but 45 the last month. And so that's why I shifted the model. It takes like a lot of those questions out of the picture. But I've been doing this long enough and been doing other like client engagement work to know, like I have all my reports like behind the scenes. So we do like very detailed time tracking on our side. The founders don't really need to see that, but if they ever did, I'm able to just pull reports from my team and go, yeah, here, like these are like, a breakdown by like 15-minute increments of exactly what the recruiter was doing. Usually if it's come to that point, there's something's off. Like we're not filling the role. So it's either on our side and the recruiter is not delivering, and in which like we're usually on top of that, and we're very involved with our founders. So it usually doesn't get to that. It can be a lot of different things. It could just be like the role's not right, salary's not right. It could be that the founders or the hiring manager are just super picky, which is good. Like you're hiring like your first employees, they can make or break your business. So I want to make sure that we get the right talent in place, but you're super picky. It's like, oh, this isn't the right person. Nah, this one wasn't right for this reason. This one wasn't right for this reason. Why is it taking so long? It's like, we sent over like really amazing candidates. So it's personal preference and there's a lot of variables at play here.
Hmm.
Yeah, I try to hire the best recruiters on our side that know what they're doing and have done it for like 10 years already. And we usually don't run into those issues. I've been fortunate in that way for a little while now.
Nice. So basically, you're able to use your experience to predict uh, to a fairly good degree of certainty how many hours is it gonna take for a company to recruit like this candidate for this role, um, and that's how you're able to create a package, prepaid package for the client.
Yep, I'll figure that out during our initial sales calls, and then we like really get into it before, like prior, like in this early sales calls, I'll get a really good idea of like who they're hiring, obviously, what their timeline is, like what the pace should be. I'm usually giving them then options. Like, listen, like for example, you're trying to hire these two roles. All right, so I recommend we could probably fill this in like 4 to 6 weeks at like 20 hours a week. Or if you want to move faster or you want to like add like a third role into the mix, I recommend we bump it up. And there's always that flexibility. So even if things are moving a little bit slower than they wanted, we can always increase hours or add another recruiter. And we've done that in the past with our clients when things are moving a little bit slower than they want. So there is that flexibility, but then yeah, it comes down to like I have recruiters that like built out 100 plus sized sales teams in like months, like high volume, like they just know these roles. So I'm taking recruiters that have the expertise that and matching that with a startup, getting their input. How long do you think this is going to take? My head of talent's amazing. So like she's like a 12-year career recruiter, worked at Uber and Instawork and Wayfair and just all kinds of these high growth environments. So she's pretty spot on of like how long it should take. So yeah, we're able to bring that expertise to the table. And honestly, I think it's a big reason why a lot of companies work with us is because we've been in the trenches before. We know what this looks like.
Nice. This sounds amazing. Can you share any metrics around how this business is doing, like how many clients you're working with, or how much revenue is this business gonna make?
Sure. Yeah. Like I said before we hopped on, we're intentionally keeping it like small right now. I come from now like a startup studio background, so I know the importance of like really nailing product market fit. So I'm being very diligent in that and like tweaking things along the way. I think right now we're working with 4 or 5 clients. We just started one this week. Um, this might be like a month or two old. We were doing around 150K per year in GMV or at that run rate.
Mhm.
Um, and then that worked out to about like 50K ARR. So, small numbers. But like, the beauty of it is that most of that money is going back to like our recruiters. So I get to like give them like a really flexible, like great way to earn money, like between contracts or between jobs. Um, and yeah, we're like really just tweaking the model, figuring out what really works, who's the right company to go after, and getting like 5 looks at a time right now at how it's working. And it's working pretty well. Pretty happy with it so far.
Congratulations. That's great to
Yeah.
hear. And how do you work with, scaling your offering to more clients? Like, so you're basically running a two-sided marketplace essentially.
In a
You need
sense, yeah.
to, yeah, you need to get the recruiters on board, and then you need to get clients to match with them. So, what is the economics of that looking like?
Yeah. Well, the company's called Venture Scaler, so I better figure that out, right? Um, there's a few ways we had this offering. Let me just give some like background real quick. We fell backwards into this offering like 2 years ago with our very first client. We came into this client called their name is Viho. met the founder through a buddy of mine from Uber, and we came in to help them with like employer brand and to help them like build up the pipeline for their candidates. They were at 70 people, needed to grow to like, they were planning on growing like 500 people by the end of the year. We started with them in January, and we came in to help with like certain things on like the people ops infrastructure side, and quickly realized like you guys don't have any people. You don't have any HR people. You don't even have an internal recruiter. Like you should have had a head of people and some internal recruiters already based on where you're at and where you want to go. So that's where the recruiting came from. My business partner and I, we had like two recruiters that we worked with in the past that were amazing. And we just said, hey, you're paying us hourly right now. Let me just bring in these two recruiters, pay them hourly just for the time, no commissions, no like guarantees, contingencies, none of that stuff. Let's just keep it simple. And they loved it. And they kept them on for like the better part of the year. And that's where it started to click like, oh, this is solving a pain point. This is something that is like really resonating with other founders. So then when hiring kind of turned upside down last year, like layoffs, hiring freezes, like everyone just kind of shut down on that front. It was like a time where things were slowing down for us anyway. And we kind of like let the current clients kind of like wrap up and roll off. And then we just took a step back. We're like, is hiring going to come back? Like, let's take a beat. Let's take a look. And then it did. And when we came back earlier this year, it was, I changed some things. I was like, okay, if I can go back and do this over, I'm going to do it and create it in such a way in the model so that it really can scale. So to go back to your question, some of the big things is like, one, I brought on an amazing partner, Evan Hudson. She's our head of talent. She's incredible. Like I said, 12 years experience. She's led large teams of recruiters. She's built like she individually, when she was at Uber, built out and like launched the Uber Eats SMB outbound sales team. So she like hired that entire team. Like her numbers were ridiculous. So she knows it. She gets it. And she knows how to manage and lead recruiters. So she's helping me on that side of the business in like incredible ways. So that's helping the whole thing scale. The revenue model, we shifted that. So now that we're able to calculate up front what we're going to be doing, we're asking for payment up front for that month. So rather than like a typical hourly type of engagement where you have like net 30 terms and you do all this work and then you send the invoice and then you have to wait another 30 days to get paid. Well, I need to pay my recruiters and I want to pay them as quickly as I possibly can because I love my recruiters and I want to make sure that they're paid. And that's like the easiest way to lose trust is to not pay somebody on time. So the model shifting allows us to do that. It allows us to like hit like no issues in payroll. We could ramp up to like 50 companies right now and 10x the business, and we'd be good on that front. And then a lot of like
Wait, sorry, I have to pause you there. So do you say you will be able to go from working with 5 companies to 50 companies, and you can do
in
that?
certain, I mean, in this case, right, because of the cash flow, if we were working on like net 30 terms and we scaled that quickly, that fast, I'd have to like take out loans to pay the recruiters like on time while I'm waiting for my clients to pay me. So by getting that payment up front for the work to be done, I'm able to pay my recruiters very quickly. And I guess I could ramp up 10x and I wouldn't have those cash flow issues. So that's like a big way. Just change like little tweaks to the model like that, like really help with the scale. The other pieces are around really just like streamlining and standardizing a lot of our procedures. So I have like a really great proposal template. Actually, hat tip to my Lance. I took the template that you guys had and just dressed it up and upgraded it and pulled parts from other proposals that I had in the past and made it my own. But it's really great. Now, if I'm talking to a client, I could have a proposal over to them in like 15 minutes after the call if I wanted to. So that just like strips out a ton of time. Standardizing processes. So I have like checklists and everything set for as soon as I need to bring on a new recruiter, I just did it this week. I had a new recruiter talk to them on like Monday, and I have them like onboarded and working on Tuesday. So I have like that process streamlined as well. And then starting to just introduce more tools. I'm like scrappy and thrifty as hell by nature. I 10 years ago I started a company and bootstrapped it, and was living off of like like ramen and Red Bull the way you did 10 years ago when you're doing that. So I always try to like, I work off spreadsheets. I use free tools, but now that we're like growing, scaling, realizing I could get a lot of time back if I just, get like a off the shelf software tool. So that's what I'm doing. So like Harvest for time tracking, QuickBooks for invoicing, and like other tools that really just take a lot of the manual process work off of my plate. So I think that like those are the big ways I'm thinking about how to scale this. And then it just becomes a matter of onboarding new recruiters. And I don't know, the bulk of my career at Uber was onboarding drivers in the supply side of the marketplace. So that just comes a lot more natural to me.
Love this. Okay, Jake, let me switch gears a little bit and talk
Yeah.
about your process of getting new clients.
Hmm.
So, you've been posting a lot in the Mylance community over the last few months about how, uh, you just make a post on LinkedIn and get signed from there, get clients from there. And this has happened not once, but multiple times. Can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. One, like I don't have this all figured out. So let's just like upfront. And I really haven't doubled down on like the sales side yet. I will. That's like the part of the plan of scaling. But like I said, we're really just trying to nail down product market fit, really trying to just deliver amazing results to the number of clients that we have right now. And then we'll start to build it up. So right now it's a lot more organic. I get a lot of clients through referrals from my own network. My very first client came from like a friend of mine from Uber. Actually, he in the very beginning we were doing like a podcast and a YouTube video series about how to do hiring better and how to set up the right structures for early stage startups. It's there's not a lot of content out there about that specifically for early stage startups. And a friend of mine saw the video that we talked about employer brand. He was working with a company that needed that help. He's like, hey, can I just introduce you? Like, they need exactly the help that you were talking about in this video. It's like, absolutely. It's like, do you guys do consulting? I'm like, no, I don't even have a bank account or an EIN or an LL. I don't have anything. And we were just doing a podcast at the time. So like I scrambled and got all that set up, and we started doing consulting, and it turned into like a 6-figure engagement. And it just,
Wow.
kind of fell backwards. So I think the biggest thing is just putting stuff out there and like not being afraid. Not every post should be about what you're doing and like a pitch. People will just tune you out. So I try to put a lot of content out around like how to do a better job of hiring, and tips and the processes that I used at like unicorns like Uber and Industrious and Viho, and even like smaller stage companies on how to scale as like a founder or like your team or whatever. But then every once in a while it's like people don't know what you're doing, people don't know what you're up to. They're not like keeping tabs and like checking out your LinkedIn as much as you're looking at your own LinkedIn page. So it's just every once in a while just putting it out there like, hey, I'm building like for me it's like I call it like a rent a recruiter service, because it just like clicks and resonates. And yeah, for like a little bit, like a month or two ago, when we were trying to my head of talent and I are like, all right, let's get a couple clients. I just did that like every week on like a Wednesday, or like every other week I'd post something about like a client success story, or I posted like just our one pager, like a image of that plus exactly what we're doing, and like the quick pitch, like the value prop as to why you should think about this. And yeah, I got lucky. I was averaging like one person reaching out to me for every time I posted. So like over the course of that month, I got like 4 leads off of that, which was great.
That's incredible.
Um, yeah, so I think that's part of it. Is just sometimes it's people don't know what you're doing, or more specifically, how you can help them.
Hmm.
And it might not even be like I think people might get stuck. You think like I'm lucky and fortunate. A big part of my network are startup founders because I've been working inside of startups where like Uber, so many of the people I worked with now like left and started their own companies. So I have like more founders there. I mentor with Techstars. I like worked in the startup studio. Like I have a lot of my network is my target market, right? So I'm fortunate in that way. I think some people get maybe hung up. Like, oh, my target market, like no one, my network, my first degree network, they're not the people I'm trying to sell to. But the thing you forget is they might know your target customer. So if you can help them understand how you could help one of their friends and you can help them articulate that, like that's how you make it easy for someone to make an intro. Right. It was
Hmm.
that video we did about employer brand. It's part of like a 6 video series. And my buddy saw it. And he's like, hey, this company needs help with that. And you just described how you do that. Can I make an intro? It's like, sure, absolutely. And I think that's just being intentional is step one.
Nice. I like this. So basically, putting content out there that authentically just describes what you're doing and helps people learn about the ways you can help them, and not really focusing on audience engagement or growing the number of followers or anything like that. Just trying to tell people what you offer and how you can help them. That's the
Yeah.
strategy.
Yeah. And doing it in different ways, right? It's not always like, oh, I'm building a, recruiter marketplace and this is what I'm doing. And if you know somebody, reach out. It's also like I just did it today. I have a post up around a client success story where we
Okay.
saved this client $230,000. And I got to tell that story and break it all down. And we'll see. Maybe I'll get somebody to reach out from this post. But it's doing it in different ways. I think, I'm a huge fan and believer in just like sharing what you know, not like not putting like a paywall up in front of that, not like keeping that as secret because people don't know how you can help them. So if you start showing how you're helping other people or, part of your process, or here's like a template or a framework or something that I used and used successfully with other clients, that's where they can start connecting the dots of like, oh, that's how you do this. That's amazing. Well, I don't want to do it myself. So can you help me do it? Then you have a client.
Hmm. Hmm. I like this. And you must look at, LinkedIn posts from other consultants, other fractionals. And do you have examples? So, okay, let's not say examples, but have you come across some where you're like, okay, this is obviously like not gonna work, or this is this is a mistake and something that the listeners should avoid doing when they're trying to follow your strategy?
I think, yeah, I think, hmm, good question. I think the big trap is to make sure that you're adding more value and like giving more than you're asking. I think people are quick to tune you out if you are asking too much. I don't have like a set ratio, but maybe follow like the 80-20 rule of give, 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 and then ask, and then give, 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 and then ask. So, I try to like provide valuable content, or like the podcast, honestly, the mentality we had when we were going into it was there's not enough good content out there. Let's just make it and just help founders. And in the beginning, I called it, we had no intentions of monetizing, or, it's like we could. We had no intentions in the beginning of consulting, but we did. I called it in the beginning, I wanted to create opportunities for serendipity. Another way I've heard people talk about it is creating more surface, like surface area for luck,
Right.
right? It's just you start putting stuff out there, you follow that give first ethos, and people appreciate that, and it resonates and they listen, and you're also at the same time demonstrating your expertise and what you can do and how you, the most important thing is how you can help them.
Right.
So I don't know, oftentimes that's the other piece of it probably too is I don't care what you're selling or what you do. I care what you can do for me, right? I don't care what you're selling. I care about what I'm buying. So like, what are the results that I'm buying? So also taking the time to think, all right, what is someone really buying from me? Not what I'm selling, but what are they actually buying from me? And, for me, they're not like, buying like their access to a recruiter or whatever. It's like, I don't have time. I don't have time to do this. Um, we just raised a round. I committed to all my investors that we're going to hire 20 people in the next 6 months, and I don't have time to do that. Like, I need help. Like, we're solving that problem, or like a lot of different variations of that. But that's why I try to talk about it. I think in the post I put up, I said, we saved the client, if they went through a recruiter, like a traditional agency, they would have spent like $250,000, and we ended up saving them like around 230,000 is a lot of startups pre-seed round, like their pre-seed fundraising.
Mhm.
So trying to put it in like different perspectives to see like what's going to resonate with somebody. And it's like, oh my gosh, 230, like that was my pre-seed round, or that's 10 months of runway. Like, okay, like you find the ways to actually like talk the language of your customer.
Like that. Um, Curious, when you started the podcast that you're mentioning, you said that
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot of content out there for this particular group of people. That must mean that there's also less of those people, right? And that's why there wasn't a lot of people producing content for them.
I don't
So,
know. I could
yeah.
be wrong. I remember like my business partner at the time, she was like a three-time head of people. And as she was growing up through her career, she was just struggling to find any content out there about how to be like a people person in an early stage startup, how to be a head of people, what to do, how to address all these different issues that you run into at these early stages. So that was, I was kind of like just working with her and bringing my side of it. I was always in roles of like the hiring manager and like building out teams and doing that like hyper growth hiring from the hiring manager side. So, and I love working with founders and startups. So I was like, yeah, let's make really great content just for free so that they can watch. And, if one founder takes this and runs with it, awesome. Like that was kind of like our goal in the very beginning. I can't say whether or not, that there's like more or less people like operating in this space. Um, I just think there was, yeah, a little bit of a lack of content just because there's a little bit of a lack of focus on like people ops and hiring and like that side of house in the early stages. I make the joke like, founders as they're building the company, they're worried about, all right, we need to build product and get to revenue and get customers. And then we're, fundraising and fundraising and fundraising. And then, oh, yes, we close the round. Oh no, we have to go hire a whole bunch of people. And we never did this before. We were getting introductions to like friends in our network and working off of spreadsheets. So and that's what I saw in the startup studio environment. I got to see this firsthand, like founders getting to the stage where they're going to fundraise. And it was like, Jake, I need to hire my first engineer. What do I look for? What do I do? I need to put together a commission structure for my first salesperson. What are some examples of that? What I need to put like, or what benefits should I be offering at the early stage? What's an ATS, which is applicant tracking system. But it's like these basic questions that I kept on getting over and over and over again. It's like, okay, and that's what I wanted to focus on that as an issue because I don't know, for me, it's like people are the most important part of a startup. If you get the right people in the right seats, like sky's the limit. So if I can help founders do that, that's that's really fulfilling for me.
Mm. So when you started, back to the question that we're asking, when you started the podcast, your only goal was to help other people who were in this spot of helping other founders recruit the best people, and you weren't really like trying to, I don't know, make it the next like top podcast on Apple Podcasts, or you didn't have any of those like ambitions in there.
No, I mean, my ego is probably pretty big, but not that big. I also just never did it before. So it was just, we started very, yeah, like just really early. I think my business partner had a full-time job. I had a full-time job. We weren't doing like freelance consulting or anything like that yet. We just really had a strong passion for startups and founders. And yeah, I just, I love that, like the world I'm in and the space I get to play in, and just working with founders. Like I get a lot of joy out of that. So for me, yeah, it came back to my quote unquote mission early on was creating opportunities for serendipity. That's what I called it. And that's what happened, and I didn't even mean for it to happen. It just did. I got introduced. We got our first client. I had to like sprint and file for the LLC and the EIN and get a bank account so I could actually send an invoice and get paid and all that. And yeah, it turned into a 6-figure engagement over the course of like 6 or 7 months. It was great. We like that was with VHO. We helped them grow from 70 people to about 280. And we like increased their inbound pipeline like 500% over that time, and like did a lot of amazing stuff. I learned a ton working with them. And that's even when we were just doing, that was an hourly engagement, because we really didn't know what we were offering at the time. It was like we scoped out a proposal and like, we're going to help you with in these areas. And then we did, and we just continue to find other areas to help and other ways to assist. And yeah, they were a rocket ship. They ended up a few months later going out and raising a $125 million Series A.
Wow.
Insane. And it's because, yeah, it started with the podcast of just creating good content. That's how it started.
Mm-hmm.
Humble beginnings.
Love it. Love this advice. Creating serendipity, creating more surface area for luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So talking about serendipity and increasing the surface area of luck, you were also a mentor at Techstars. You still are actually. So can you speak
Yeah.
about that experience?
Yeah. I'm currently like we just wrapped up. San Diego just did their demo day, but I'm a lead mentor and got attached like one-to-one with a lot of different companies I'm involved with the Atlanta Techstars program, the Austin Techstars program, and the newly launched San Diego program. So they just like occur throughout the year, once or twice a year for each program. And no, it's great. I started because at the time I was taking a step back from the startup studio, where I was like working every day with founders, like helping them with like their problems. I was our program director at the studio, and I was like helping on like business design and growth and product, and like leading the teams that helped our founders and portfolio companies with that. And when I was about to leave, I was like, oh no, I'm going to miss this. I can't like not talk to founders on a regular
Right.
basis. So I was like, how am I going to scratch that itch? And I started mentoring with First Round Capital, and I started mentoring with Techstars. Both great programs. I just got like more and more involved with Techstars. I love what they're doing, and I love their programming and the mentor network. So yeah, I've been doing that for almost 3 years now, 2.5, 3 years now. The first founder I worked with, I'm like on his advisory board. I have calls with him every other week. So I, get again, it's like more of the serendipity thing. Like, their whole ethos is give first. That's like their motto, and they have like, everything around it. So you're going into these relationships, just trying to help founders out. That's the whole goal. And if something comes out on the back end, awesome. But yeah, I just really love working with founders and helping them through their challenges, especially at that stage where they're going through Techstars program.
Mm.
Things are moving so fast, and you just get to like dive in with them and help them figure things out. It's a lot of fun.
I love that. And at what stage are these founders typically at when you're helping them at Techstars?
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes they're like they're really early, like pre-product, just getting started. A few of the ones I mentioned, like the one I just talked about, he was at like a couple $1,000s a month in net revenue. The one I just mentored with San Diego, same. They were just at like two paying customers and like $2,000 a month in recurring revenue or something like that, like really small. Some are further along. It just depends on.
Mm.
Usually they're trying to go through program to come out and raise a seed round, probably
Mm.
like a 2 3 $4 million round, maybe like for like the smaller ones like a one. I think Upkit was one of the first companies I worked with. They raised a 1.7 million seed or maybe pre-seed round after program. So like right around that stage, which for us is like kind of sweet spot, little bit early for venture scaler. The need and the pain usually comes up after a fundraise, is when
Mm.
founders like really need, like they have investor pressure. They need to ramp up and they need to hire. And now they have the money to actually like get the help with the hiring. So it's a little bit early for like venture scaler, but I mean, I just love talking to founders, love helping them through their challenges. It also like it keeps me sharp. So I just get to like continue talking to really like one of my target customer, quote unquote, and
Right.
understand like, what challenges are they facing? What are they facing in this industry? What are they facing with this business model? So it, like keeps me close and connected to that target customer, even if they're not quite ready for that yet.
Mm.
And
Mm.
yeah, I just get to like a really clear understanding of what are their pains, what are their needs, and who knows, like it could spur like the next offering for venture scaler. Like, oh, I this whole cohort I'm seeing, they all have the same problem. Yeah, but like really like a rewarding experience for me.
I love it. This is so cool to see how you're just following your passion and trying to find ways to help the people that you care about and making that into your business.
It's tricky because startup founders are notoriously thrifty. I was. I
Yeah.
was I was cheap as hell when I was starting my company. So it's the if you can figure out how to like line up what like who you love to work with and the type of work you love doing, and you can figure out like, oh, they're actually willing to pay for this, that's the sweet spot. It took me a while to
Mm.
figure out what a startup founder is willing to pay for. And at that stage, experiencing that specific pain, like hiring is a huge need. So, and that's something that they're willing to pay for because they look at it less about a cost line item and more about an investment in finding the right people. At
Mm.
least those are the founders that I love working with. It's like they have that mentality. Um, so yeah, it's challenging at the same time.
Hmm. I get it. Um, and Jake, this has been fantastic. I love this conversation. I think we touched upon a lot of really interesting topics, and you shared a lot about your experience and your business. Thank you so much for doing that.
Of course, I'm happy to help and happy to share.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Jake. I'm gonna sign off now.
Sounds good.